Hello everyone and welcome to another What I Think review, and today I'm very excited to be looking at the new History of the Daleks number 21 set from Eve of the Daleks. Firstly, I want to give a big shout out to Doctor Who Figure Photos on Instagram for picking up one of these for me, because unfortunately currently my local B&M isn't stocking them or doesn't have stock in. Hopefully they're going to come in soon, because I'm still on the hunt for the TARDIS as well and I would like to pick up another set of Daleks. But yeah, big shout out to them for picking these up for me. I'm really excited to review these. So as I said, this is from Eve to the Daleks. Really nice looking box. I like that we've got a little bit of colour variation in it. Again, if we turn the box round on the back, you can see we've got the usual bit of bump about the episode, and then there's a little bit of behind the scenes as well about the re-updated props and things like that. Always nice to see that information on there, but let's get into having a look at what we've got inside the box. So here we have the Daleks out of the box, and obviously one of the most noticeable things about these, which I know has caused some controversy, is the colour scheme. I'm going to come to that in a minute, because I feel like that's something I want to talk about on its own. Overall though, as you can see, really nicely presented figures. We've got the updated arm, which I believe is a new sculpt, because obviously it's got the claw on the end of it, but the previous recon one we've had is obviously a much shorter, stubbier arm, so we've got an updated claw version of that. And then of course as well we have got the Gatling gun, which looks absolutely fantastic. So both of these, as far as I'm aware, I believe were modelled by Star Props 1, who, as some of you may know, also recently did the Al commissioned himself to do the Meep pod. So it's great to see that, you know, that we've actually got them actually on doing some actual pieces for the figures as well now. I think it's absolutely wonderful, you know, when you get you know, creators and things like that, knowing you've got creators and things like that involved in these. Really does look the part. You know, sculpt on it is absolutely fantastic, and I really don't have anything sort of negative to say about these as such, because I do think that the sculpt works really well. Again, it's a really simple design, simple change, but it is one that has worked really well. But obviously now we're going to get on to the colour scheme, which obviously, as I said, is something which I know has generated a bit of controversy, as it were. Okay, right. This is now the 5th time I've tried to record this bit, because I keep going into rant territory here. So I'm going to try and really keep this short and sweet. First things first, personal opinion, I love this colour scheme of this, you know, of the Daleks and things like that. I think it looks absolutely fantastic. If this is the actual colour scheme of the Daleks going ahead in future, I would love that, because it reminds me of the classic grey Renegades, where they sort of looked similar, but they slightly updated them over the years, and it's sort of this slightly darker bronze. I really do think looks the part, and definitely keeps them looking like the new series Daleks, but with an added update to it. In terms of the colour, obviously, some people have, you know, turned around and said, you know, that, like me, you know, I think it looks very good. Other people have turned around and said that this is, you know, an incredibly inaccurate figure. That is partly true, and I say partly because I'm trying to be fair here. So this is meant to be from Eve of the Daleks. Now, when I watched Eve of the Daleks, and even now going back and looking at some of the promo pictures, I actually think the Daleks do look like they've got a darker colour scheme. Apparently they don't, but I think it does look like that. So it kind of, personally, I think it still fits, but I can understand that people are saying, well, it's not because they didn't have that colour scheme. Okay, fair enough. However, as pointed out by the experts over at Dalek 6388, they did in fact have this colour scheme, or a similar, very close colour scheme, in Power of the Doctor. Now, I understand where people are coming from when they say, well, these are accurate to Power of the Doctor, but not Eve of the Power of the Doctor, but not Eve of the Daleks. So why couldn't we have had the accurate colour scheme in that set for it? Now, I understand. Like I said, I understand that, and I do look at it and think, like, okay, yeah, you could have had one of the previous B&M bronze releases and just had these added, you know, the added claw and the added gun. The updated gun on them, and they would have looked slightly different. However, I also think that some people are blowing this a little bit out of proportion with some of the reactions that I've seen, because okay, this is where I need to try and keep it short and sweet, because this is where I keep going into rant territory. At the end of the day, these figures are from a budget and that is emphasis on the word budget range. They are not made to be high value collector's items. The fact that they are limited edition and they are limited in quantities and people buy them up and the distribution is, you know, difficult to people get hold of, they have become collector's things because of the collectors. But at the end of the day, these are toys aimed at a general audience. That's why you find them in a toy aisle, in a budget shop that sells toys. They are not high value items, say such as Big Chief or I think Master Replicas, who now have them, who are selling them for several hundreds of pounds. If that was the case, then yes, by all means complain about the inconsistencies and things like that. But for a budget line for toys, it's really not that big of a deal, you know. And I'm sure people are gonna disagree with me on that, but I really do think that it's something which people are blowing too far out of proportion. And in essence, to try and sort of prove that point, that I think they are making a mountain out of a molehill, is, as you can see here, I've got several different Daleks lined up here. Now, each of them have been customized slightly, but overall, the bronze and gold is still unchanged. So here we have this base figure is a Series 4 Crucible Dalek. The base figure for this was from the History of the Daleks 16 and 17 set, and the base figure from this was from the Dalek 19 set, I think. History of the Daleks 19. Now, obviously this one, yes, is drastically darker and different, but when you look across all these three, they all have different colour schemes and different shades of bronze and things like that. And I think this is the point. The Daleks as figures have never had a consistent colour scheme. They've always looked slightly different as the figures have changed over the years. And I think people are focusing too much on trying to make these budget figures accurate and just sort of ignoring the fact that this has never really been the case. And even if we take out, say, the Crucible Dalek from, Series 4, and we just focus on the History of the Daleks sets, like I said, these two very different colour schemes, but going back into the History of the Daleks, way back into, the classic ones, where we had Daleks with slightly different coloured midsections, different coloured globes and things like that, there's always been inconsistencies in this range to make them look slightly different and make them look different to updated variations and things like that. And I just, even as a collector, who I don't think it's that big of a deal. And I want to make it clear as well, actually, while I'm saying this, I really want to make this clear. For this Eve of the Daleks set, again, I've had to buy this myself. I've bought this myself, I've paid money, I have not been given this as an advanced sample, so there's no reason for me to try and, gloss things over or blow smoke or anything like that. I'm literally giving my honest opinions and thoughts that I don't see why people are so annoyed about this for something that is effectively just a toy. People can turn around and say, well, it says collector's set on the box, or it says this, it says that, and it's like, yes, it also says £20 or £21.99, whatever, whatever it is. What are you expecting for that price? If it was, like, again, Big Chief or Master Replicas or something like that, and it cost you £200-300, or it's like the the Builder Dalek thing with the hatchet works that people are invested in. If that was inaccurate, absolutely say give a problem with it, because you're paying thousands of pounds potentially to complete that. This is a toy set that's 20 quid in a budget store range. I think people are expecting too much, and at the end of the day, I genuinely cannot think of anything bad to really say about these two figures. They look absolutely fantastic. The colour scheme, I think, looks great. The detail on them looks great. There's really just a lot of stuff, and they really stand out compared to all the other Daleks. We've got, I can't even begin to count, I'm just looking around my room, how many different variations of the new series Daleks we've had. And although I know I've just said that, oh, there's always variation between the new series Daleks in, you know, minor colour scheme changes and things like that, they all just do look the same. Whereas these ones are really unique and they really stand out, and I much prefer seeing these on a shelf amongst all the other bronze Daleks because they really catch the eye and they really draw the eye, and it's because they just look different to anything else that we've had before, and I really do think that they look the part. You know, and I like I said, I appreciate that my opinion on this is probably going to be controversial, and there's probably people who are going to disagree with me, but you know, I really do think that this isn't as big of a deal as people are making it out to be. You know, and to try and end on a positive note, I personally am going to try and get hold of another of these sets because I really would like to try and use this colour scheme in a custom or something. I've got a few ideas of something to do just to sort of chop and change this around. It's like I'd like to try and get a hold of another set so I can actually paint the gold on one of these slightly more gold, like a more of a gold leaf gold, and I'm actually tempted to get one of them and paint it silver just to see what it looks like. But yeah, you know, I really think that these really do stand out. They really look good. And like I said, for me personally, having, you know, watched Eve of the Daleks and looked at the promo pictures, I actually do think they look accurate, because even though the props may not have actually been this sort of dark on screen, they actually do look a bit like that, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. At the end of the day, I look at it and think, like, what the props actually look like might be what the props look like, but if they look slightly different on screen, then you could arguably say that these are accurate to the screen. But again, just my opinion. But to end that, before again I head into rant territory, that brings to a close another What I Think review. As always, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Like, subscribe, share, it really helps me out a lot. And be sure to check out the description below for a link to my Patreon. I've had a bit of a reshuffle of my Patreon at the moment. So there is only the one tier on there at the moment, but all of your donations are greatly received, and for the smallest donation you can get your name at the end of my videos. I also know that I've had a couple of new patrons recently. Thank you very much for supporting, but I just want to put in this now because the reason I'm saying this is that some of my videos I have recorded in advance, like my Curse of Fatal Death custom series, which have all been edited and are already uploaded on my channel and are waiting to go live. So your name may not appear at in the end of some of those because I have recorded them in advance. So I just want to say you haven't been deliberately missed out. It's literally because I'd already recorded them all, and it's already been uploaded and edited. So I'm sorry that you're not in those future ones. But again, thank you very much for the donations. It really does help keep the running of the channel going, and yes, it really does mean the world to me. I salute you all, and I will see you with another video very soon.